Greetings, metallurgists. Marty's back for Heavy Metallurgy to talk about some heavy/power metal. I know you're probably under the impression that I don't like anything else but power metal, but, I promise you, I do like death and black metal as well, but I feel like it's my mission here to drag some of you kicking and screaming into the light, so to speak. So, if you're willing, join me.
The grief of many will await the end of the one. In the skies of my old friend, the reaper you have become.
All right, today we will be covering the latest from a German band called Orden Ogan with their newest album called The Order of Fear, which came out on July 5th on Reigning Phoenix Music. It is their 9th studio album, and it's a 48-minute long excursion into what you could, I guess, consider the commercial side of European heavy metal. For those of you unaware, Orden Ogan formed in 1996 by Sebastian Sieb Leverman, who, if any of you are paying attention, he's been doing Orden Ogan for quite a long time, but he's also the main songwriter and the Skeletor character in the Angus McSix band on the album The Sword of Power, which I believe he is credited for writing a very good chunk of that. And you listen to what later day Orden Ogan sounds like and what Angus McSix sounds like, there's some similarities for sure. But thankfully, Orden Ogan does not embrace stuff like EDM and other overly commercial things. There is still a very commercial slant to later day Orden Ogan, but it's wrapped very much in a metal exterior. For me, my journey with Orden Ogan started with this album right here, To the End, which we've covered on the album club here. I love this record. It's incredibly melodic. There's a slight Swedish melodeath influence on this, so the guitar work is highly melodic, interesting, and aggressive at times. But as the band has gone on, that influence has been pushed ever so slightly to the background to embrace more of a commercial side. And what makes this popular? What do I mean by commercial? Again, this is all wrapped in a metal exterior, but there is no denying the fact that Orden Ogan has, and other bands of this ilk, have embraced more pop structures and melodic sensibilities moving forward. Every songwriting element on display is in service of the chorus. So that means in a lot of these songs, the chorus is seen as the most important part of the song, which, again, that is very much a songwriting characteristic of pop music. And to take that even a step further, to emphasize the fact that it's kind of written from a pop sensibility, one thing pop music does, if you listen to the radio, a chorus is established, the chorus is played throughout the song, and at the end of the song, they will take that chorus and raise it up a key. So they get essentially more mileage out of the chorus and give the listener more of an elated feeling that it somehow sells that chorus again just differently. It makes it a bit more exciting. Orden Ogan has been doing this since their inception. From what I've heard of their album, I've got like 5 of their albums. And they've been doing it to a certain extent, but the last few in particular, and the Angus McSix material, it is become a formula that is incredibly predictable. And though it works within every song, out of the 10 normal songs on this album, 7 of the songs do this characteristic or this technique. So your ear has heard it track after track after track after track. So in turn, what this does is you become so familiar with what's going on, it gives the album an aura of sameness. 2 albums ago, leading up to The Order of Fear, is Final Days. And, this sounds like another Orden Ogan album, except it's very clinically perfect in sound, and Sieb really leans into the commercial side. You've got these tricky kill switch sound effects that is very common in commercial metal. You've got, the key shift thing, like I mentioned, and the choruses kind of eclipse the rest of the song. And though those elements might still be present on The Order of Fear, one thing you realize right away getting into Kings of the Underworld, Sieb has re-embraced a more aggressive attack in the music. Still very well produced. There is nothing out of step here as far as the sound field goes. Everything sounds the way it should. Very full, very lively. The drums have a very processed sound to them, but there's so many guitars and such a fullness with the synths and Sieb's excellent vocals over the top. You don't really focus on it much, nor does it become a problem. Right off the bat, Kings of the Underworld, getting back to that, it's the most aggressive track on the album. Driving double bass, epic synth and clean sung melody lines from a background choir unite for a very, very triumphant crescendo, which they do lean into quite a bit throughout the song. And then he adds something from this era here. You got the growled background vocals and gang yells in the chorus to add some depth. And one thing that really stands out on this album is the guitar work, and especially on this track. It's savage riff work, and the solos are just very lively and really grab your attention. So yeah, we're off to a really good start to an enthusiastic album. Then we get into the next track, The Order of Fear. It's a very short intro and first verse that really gets us to the chorus quickly. And the chorus quickly becomes the main focus for the song. You can tell that was the intention of the song, to make this chorus the main focal point. And this is the first instance where we see at the end of the track that chorus comes back again at a higher key. I mean, get used to it. It's going to happen 6 more times on the album. Maybe a 7th. The last song, it kind of does it a little bit, but it wasn't so obvious. But yeah, it's a songwriting staple he leans on a lot to its detriment. Next up is definitely my least favorite song on the album, Moonfire. It's musically interesting and heavy track. The chorus feels rushed or unfinished, essentially reverting back to Moonfire, saying the name of the song over and over and again and changing the words around a little bit on a very obvious melody line. That and the fact that they revert back to this chorus a lot throughout the song, it doesn't make it any easier to accept the song or get excited about the song. They once again predictably use that aforementioned key change in the chorus at the end of the song. It's unnecessary and at this point unwanted on a very bad chorus anyway. Conquest is next. Sieb is digging in with a more emotional vocal performance on this one, especially on the pre-chorus. On the verses in the pre-chorus, he sings in a higher register than you've been used to for the first chunk of the album. It heightens the passion in his performance. It's a very solid chorus. The track also highlights the excellent guitar work and advanced understanding of melody and how to use it effectively in songcraft. He might revert to a formula a lot, but he is very, very good at writing a song. He understands melody and how to use it effectively, and all these melodic lines layer in to build a very immersive experience.
Give me, old friend, what have I done? Upon the streets of find another reason. I'm cursed to live another day.
The track Blind Man, more aggressive guitar work on this one and hook-laden riffs. It kind of brings me back in mind of To the End. It has that older, early in their catalog vibe to it. I mean, his formula remains evident as Sieb has kind of been in this songwriting mindset for a long time now. There's really no surprises on this track. It's just a powerful and epic song. Another low point on this album for me is The Prince of Sorrow. It's has a lighthearted feel to it. It sounds like it could have made it on the Angus Mix 6 album. Granted, I like that record. It's silly, it's fun, it's well written, but when you transpose that formula to this, the similarities are definitely there. In fact, there's some riffs and melody lines and vocal cadences that feel like it was borrowed directly from a song off that record. It's a passable track, but really it could have been cut from the track listing and not hurt the impact of this album at all. On this Prince of Sorrow track, and at this point in the album, you're starting to realize that the aggressive nature that started the album off is kind of dropped off, making, at this point, the album feels front-loaded. You got Dreadlord, which is, has some aggressive stuff going on in it, but it's burdened by a very obvious template that Sieb has been working on. It's just, I'm hearing this song over and over and over again throughout the whole album, and it's like, do something different. I like your sound. I like what you're doing. You can write a good song. Mix it up a bit. We get to the ballad of the album called My Worst Enemy. Piano and synth lines interact here. Then you slowly add bass and drums with the pianos and the clean vocals. And you have to keep that heartfelt chorus propped up until that soaring guitar line comes in for the solo. Then after that, the whole band comes in to capitalize on the chorus and once again change the key of the chorus to end on a more of an epic crescendo, which if they hadn't done it 4 other times leading up to this song, it would have been way more effective, because even though this is the ballad, it's very much in the formula of the album. It's a very well choreographed and layered song. It really ends on kind of a triumphant, heartfelt note, which is another welcome songwriting characteristic that Sieb really does well working with. Thankfully for the Order of Fear, Sieb really ends this album well. Following up that ballad with Anthem to the Dark Side, it is a definite banger of a track. Probably one of the best on the album, other than the lead-off track. Sieb does some great singing through the verses, highlighted by a palm-muted, fast, crunching riff that has a slight speed metal feel to it. The chorus on this one is epic, with layered singing and a very vibrant emotion. The thing that makes this song cool is there are several very well-considered musical breaks where there's some twin guitar lines that sync up, which is a very German characteristic when it comes to heavy metal. They do it well. Like I said, the guitar work on this album is exceptional, and when those two guitars lock in, it really gives this track a feeling of something new on the album. Love the guitar work on this one. It's a great track. And then we end on The Long Darkness, which is a slower and very atmospheric track. They layer a lot of synth lines and backing choir voices. It allows kind of like a dark metal symphony to unfold, which is a very nice touch. I really like how they recall the main guitar hook at the beginning of the track to come in and out of the composition. They pile on the voices on this one, all the layers, and the way they're recorded. It kind of makes you feel like you're sitting in a church service and the choir is holding court. I really appreciate how Sieb seemingly broke out of his established formula on this album to end Order of Fear on a very positive and triumphant note. In fact, this track almost has a cinematic scope to it, which is, again, it erases some of the sameness that you may experience through the middle of this album and ends on something that feels very well considered and composed by someone that really knows and understands how to create excellent metal music. So in closing, what do I think about this record? I had some kind of negative things to say about it, but if I could just turn off my brain when listening to this album and not think about the songwriting characteristics that Sieb uses a lot, the formula, so to speak, I'm left with an album that I really do enjoy. There's a couple tracks on here that I think are a low spot, for sure. But the more aggressive side of it, the guitar playing, Sieb is an excellent vocalist too. He doesn't sing outside of his range. He's got kind of a melodious speaking type of singing style. He can carry a tune very well. He can stretch it up into a higher register too for more impact. And he really sells it well on many of the tracks on here. This is always going to be my favorite unless something comes along and dethrones this one. It's the first one I ever heard, but it was the most Swedish melodeath influenced. But I really do think that Order of Fear is a solid record. If you have never heard Orden Ogan before and you're kind of curious what this more commercialized form of European heavy metal sounds like, give this one a try. I think it's going to be a good representation of, bands like Sabaton, Windrose, bands like that. Orden Ogan definitely sits within that tier of bands that are heavy. They're certainly power metal leaning, but not fully traditional power metal. There is more of a, rough metal vibe to it. It's just heavy metal. It's really well written heavy metal. And, again, come with me, turn off your brain and just listen to the music and enjoy it. Again, Orden Ogan are not reinventing the wheel here. They're doing what they do almost down to a T, and it's well done. It's well written. It's catchy. It's memorable. It's got a lot of good pacing of emotion throughout it. I just struggle with the same formula. Thankfully, Order of Fear ends on a very atypical note from the rest of the album. It leaves a positive imprint on my appreciation for this record. All right, for my call to arms, we're going to be talking today about Dream Evil Metal Gods, which was released on July 26th via Century Media Records. Dream Evil hails from Gothenburg, Sweden, and has been at it since 1999, putting out 7 full-length albums. I only own one of them. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And I remember getting some promos earlier on in their career during a time where I really wasn't in the mood for this style of metal and thought they were a bit on the weak side. Well, the album I bought here a year or two ago really struck a chord, and hearing Metal Gods recently, I was reminded how heavy this band is. A very heavy band. Metal Gods has got a lot of weight to it. Crunchy, well produced album. The guitars have a really thick presence to them, a lot of grit. Nicholas Itzfeldt is the vocalist, excellent singer. He's got a bit of he can take it up to falsetto, to higher falsetto register when he wants to, but he doesn't do it often. He's got a solid pitch singing voice that is heavy, a little bit of grit to it. But he's got a bit of a whine in there that it sets him apart from sounding like everybody in the genre, which is a nice touch. Metal Gods starts off with the title track. It's very much a simplistic banger that pays tribute to all of Dream Evil's metal influences. There's mention of Number of the Beast in there, and all these different albums come in. Bands do this from time to time. Was it Sabaton has a song, like a tribute to Manowar, where they like the chorus is like all of these different Manowar songs. Well, this doesn't go that crazy, but it's kind of like telling a tale on, the metal albums that influenced them. It's a very to-the-point track. It's heavy as hell, predictable, but in a good way. It kind of reminds me of an Accept song from back in the day. Chosen Force is up next, probably one of my favorite songs on the album. It's a great track. Heavy guitar lines and synth layers over the top gives us an expansive vibe and demonstrates that Dream Evil are far more than a band influenced by Accept.
Everything's burning, houses on fire, nothing is left, all is destroyed.
Tyrant Dies at Dawn, solid fist pumping double bass, plus an anthemic chorus with gang yelled backing vocals gives us a middle era Manowar vibe. So once again, more influences they're wearing on their sleeve. Then you got like tracks like Fight the Night and Born in Hell, keeps our heads banging with heavy riff work and traditional heavy meets power metal. Metal Gods has 10 tracks. They're all well written. There's nothing we haven't heard before, but it's iron tight metal with a meaty production and obvious passion for the art form. And if you're a fan of the genre, what more can you ask for? If you're a fan of heavy metal with some power metal leanings, check out Dream Evil's Metal Gods. I don't think you're going to be disappointed on this. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining us on these reviews. More to come, of course. And of course, there's also our Wednesday night and Friday night streams. If you are just new to Heavy Metallurgy, help us out with a like and a subscribe. It does feed the algorithm and encourage us to keep doing more of these reviews for you. Until next time, hey, take care. We'll see ya.
Sail across the mighty sea with swords